Peter.
Charlotte. What's up? Are you okay?
It's hard to breathe.
What do you mean?
I think my throat's getting bigger.
You're listening to the Fun with Horror podcast with your hosts, Scotty and Andrew.
Hello, I'm Scotty.
Hey, everybody, I'm Andrew.
And welcome to episode 95 of Fun with Horror, the movie review podcast in which two long-distance best friends give each other horror movies to watch, and then we discuss them the following episode. We only have two rules here at Fun with Horror. Number one, whoever picks the movie has to pick a movie they've never seen. And number two, we both have to watch that movie before we discuss it.
That's right. And last pick was me. And I chose a pretty cute little uplifting Disney-esque movie called Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster. Hopefully I said that right. Probably not. Ari Aster. Not even close. But it stars Toni, Collette, Millie Shapiro, Gabriel Byrne, and Alex Wolff, as well as many others in this movie. And of course, remember, stay to the end of this episode because we're going to hear some information for the next episode. I'll just say that. But without further ado, hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. That's right.
How are you?
We got some exciting stuff coming at you.
We do. I know. I was like, how do I phrase this? So I winged it.
You winged it, and that is not a hint at all.
No, it's not. No, it's really not.
Nothing we talk about has anything to do with wings at the end of this episode.
Nope. I'm just a weird guy. There you go. How are you, man?
You know, I'm good. I'm very happy to be recording Fun with Horror.
Me too.
With my friend Andrew. It's been like 2 weeks since we've talked.
Dude. I know.
This is something, let's remind everybody, anybody listening, Andrew and I do not live in the same city.
True. Nope.
This whole podcast came as a result of he and I keeping in touch from long distance. We are long distance best friends.
Yes.
So this is how we keep in touch. So a lot of times when we record, we haven't talked to each other since the last time we recorded.
I know. So when we do catch up, we catch up. I mean, you all get to be a part of it.
You know, it's great though. A lot of people think that we're actually related.
Do they? Oh, I love that.
Yeah. They think we look the same. It just seems hereditary to them.
You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby, she wouldn't let me feed you because she needed to feed you. She was like crazy.
She wanted me to be a boy.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about Hereditary by Ari Aster this episode. And I'm going to warn you right now, if you have, by some chance, have not seen Hereditary, we are about to spoil the entire movie. So do yourselves a favor. Feel free to pause the podcast or just keep listening. It's up to you. But Andrew, this is going to be a really interesting 3-minute recap.
Oh, I plan on botching it, friend.
I hope you'd better not, because you know why?
Why?
Well, I did a little ritual before the podcast, and I summoned Payman.
Oh, no.
And Payman, the demon, is outside of your house. And if you go over 3 minutes, Payman is basically going to eat your soul and tear it apart.
Oh, man. I was wondering. I kept hearing outside. So, okay. Makes sense.
Makes sense. But without further ado, my friend, whenever you are ready.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of Leak time!
Okay. Well, the movie starts with an obituary showing Annie's mom has died in their house. We then cut to the funeral where Annie speaks about her mom. They didn't have like the best relationship. And then we go back to the house. Annie has a family, the daughter Charlie, husband Steve, and son Peter. Throughout the beginning of the movie, we see that Charlie has an allergy to nuts. We also see that, again, Annie had a strained relationship with her mom, but Charlie didn't. Charlie really liked the mom. Anyway, one night, Peter says he wants to go out to a party. Of course, Annie makes him take Charlie. They go to a party. Well, at the party, unfortunately, Charlie eats some nuts, and they drive home. But on the way home, Peter is freaking out. And so is Charlie, unable to breathe. She opens the window to try and breathe. There's a dead goat in the middle of the road. Peter swerves, and unfortunately, Charlie is decapitated by a telephone pole. As they drive home, Peter is in shock, leaves the dead body in the car. The next morning, Annie sees it and has a breakdown. We cut to a little time later where Annie is now going to sort of a group to talk it over, where she meets Joan at one point, and Joan is telling her that she's also lost a son and that they should become friends, essentially. Throughout this time, we see that Annie has this job where she works with miniatures, and she's also looked at one point in this box that her mom had with some very interesting books that we don't really understand yet. Eventually, she sees Joan again. Joan tells her that she's had this like miracle happen. She's finally been able to talk to her son and dead grandson through this ritual, which Annie goes and observes and sees that it works. So she and her family decide to do it to talk to Charlie, and some crazy stuff happens, and Charlie, quote unquote, shows up. Eventually, though, we find out that Joan actually was in a cult group with Annie's mom, and that Peter was supposed to be, Peter is going to be essentially this vessel for this demon, Payman, who's outside my house right now. And eventually all anarchy breaks loose. The entire family is killed, which we will talk about in detail a little bit later. It ends, though, with Peter going up to this treehouse where Joan is there with cult members. He is now possessed by Payman and is now this leader and hopefully, quote unquote, to them, leader of the free world. The end. Dude, that was so hard.
Well, you did it, though. You did it. Hang on. Let me do the ritual to make Payman go away.
Thank you.
Payman, goodbye. All right, good. He's gone.
He left. I just heard him leave. Thanks, man. Oh, that was tough. Like I told you before we started, I was like, I totally forgot again about the 3-minute, and this is one to not forget about a 3-minute. So that was
This is one not to forget about a 3-minute.
Oofta.
All right. Well, buddy, more than most movies that we have talked about, I was very, very excited when you picked this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously I brought it up to you many moons ago.
Yeah.
What did you think of Hereditary, my friend?
I think that this movie is a piece of master. I think this is a masterpiece. I tricked you. I thought you'd be like,
you didn't trick me.
What?
I knew you were misleading me.
Dang it. All right. Well, yeah, I think this movie is an absolute masterpiece. I think it is a damn near perfect movie.
Wow.
Period.
Tell me how you watched it. What was your atmosphere?
So I watched it in 2 settings, which actually was, in my opinion, the perfect way to watch it. For me,
Why?
Anyway.
Tell me.
So the first section I watched, I was, Enzo was asleep, and I was like, this is perfect. Like, he's down. He's been sleeping a lot more throughout the day, longer naps. So I said, this is perfect. It'll have quiet time. No one else is here. And so I watched until about 40 minutes left of the movie. So right before things just go nuts.
Yeah.
Which is perfect because it set it up, and I don't know what I would almost call it a drama a bit, sort of that beginning part. Now there's elements obviously, but it worked perfectly in the setting I was in. I was so excited to finish this though, that the next morning at about 4 a.m. I woke up and I was like, I need to go watch this. Like, I can't sleep. I'm going down to finish this movie. So I was awake and it was pitch dark, 4 a.m. for the last 40 minutes. I was by myself downstairs in the pitch dark and quiet, except for this movie. And it was the perfect way to watch the finale of this movie. So it worked beautifully for me. It was the best way. And then I watched it again because I was that into it with the family.
Oh, great. Wow.
Yeah, dude. I think this movie is brilliant.
So, see, I thought you watched 2 movies that morning, 2 full movies, because you also told me you watched something else.
Right.
You told me you finished Hereditary. I thought you had watched 2 horror movies at 4:00 in the morning, and I was like, man, that's how I like to start every day.
No, I had watched essentially a movie in a chunk.
I was very jealous.
That's fun, though. I would like that, but I don't know if Enzo would let me do that.
Okay, so my next question, in our last episode, when you talked about choosing Hereditary,
yes,
I asked you what you knew about the movie.
Right.
You knew something, and I assume it was the scene in the car with Charlie.
That's exactly right.
What did you know, and how did you react to that scene when you actually saw it?
So I knew that I don't know how I had seen the scene, but I had seen her like look out the window and then it cuts, or kind of cuts to black. But then I had seen I don't know, maybe it was on TikTok or Instagram at one point. I don't know. But then it showed the head too. And I was like, holy crap, that's horrifying. That's it. That's what I knew. Watching it now was so much worse. So much worse. One, I don't know if I knew why she was sticking her head out, but having watched it now as with a kiddo that does have an allergy to nuts made it so much worse. Yeah, so scary because I've seen that, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully you wouldn't have to swerve around a dead goat.
I hope not. Yeah,
that's
no,
happening.
That's never happened, knock on wood. Yeah. Oh man. That was an intense scene. Oof.
That sequence is one of the most perfect, most well executed sequences in any horror movie ever made, in my opinion.
Completely agree. I think how it happened, the quick brief second that we saw it happen, but I think Peter's reaction was exactly what would happen. You don't know what you would do. You're in shock. And I thought we'll talk about the acting because we need to, but that scene he knocked that scene out of the park. It was brilliant.
I remember watching it for the first time, not knowing that it was about to happen.
Yeah.
And just, it's already done so well.
Mm-hmm.
The horror of her not being able to breathe.
Yes.
And her stoned brother trying to get her to a hospital on an empty road as soon as possible.
Right.
And we were already feeling this stress, worrying about Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the telephone pole happens and the whole audience was just dead silent.
Wow.
Like you could hear probably an audible,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then everybody was quiet. And then the way Peter is looking in the rearview mirror and it almost pans over to Charlie's body, but then it pans away because he can't handle it.
Yep.
And then, yes, he goes home and he's laying in bed and all you see is the sun come up. You see him laying there. You don't see Annie's reaction, the mom. You don't see her reaction. All you do is you hear her go outside and go to the car, and you hear her screaming and going into hysterics while the camera is just dead focused on Peter's face in bed.
Yeah.
And then, as if that's not enough, then the movie just, without any warning whatsoever, cuts to Charlie's head covered in ants on the side of the road.
Yes. Yes.
And that's it. That's that scene.
Insane. Absolutely insane, but brilliantly shot. I mean, yeah, like I said, I have zero. That's not true. I have one little note.
Oh no.
It's dumb and it's silly. It's just silly. It's not a bad thing.
Can't wait to hear this one.
Yeah, but no, other than that, I mean, it's not a bad thing. You'll just laugh.
Okay.
But it really, I have no complaints. I mean, this movie is
Now
seriously a masterpiece.
You watched it a second time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice the second time? Did you notice when they were on their way to the party and they passed that phone, the symbol carved into the telephone pole?
No, I didn't. Oh my gosh. I noticed that they pause on it, and I went, oh, that's a good foreshadow. I didn't see the symbol.
No, the symbol is carved into the telephone pole.
Dude.
That symbol is everywhere in the movie, and there's so many things I noticed watching it again the second time. It's just,
gosh.
as you said, it's a masterpiece of a movie. I give it 5 stars.
Yes.
I have no issues with it whatsoever.
Yes, I agree.
It's just got this perfect pace and this perfect build to the entire movie up to that chaotic ending. Man. And then when you start thinking about the different, I guess, metaphors, but not really metaphor. I don't know. Yeah, there are metaphors. There's absolutely metaphors. Like the entire, let's get into it. The entire movie basically is miniatures being moved around by somebody else. And that's what you realize watching the movie a second time, that nobody has any control. Everything has been predetermined.
Mm-hmm.
You really realize that when you see the carving on the telephone pole, that even that moment has been predetermined by this cult of payment.
Yeah.
You know, the movie opens with the camera panning into the dollhouse.
Oh,
and
such a beautiful shot.
It's got that amazing shot, right? Where it pans into Peter's room in the dollhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it's not a dollhouse anymore. It's Peter's room. And the dad, Steve, is coming into the bedroom to tell Peter to come to the funeral. And if you think about it like that, the entire movie then takes place inside a dollhouse.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Everybody is a miniature being manipulated and moved around. Everybody.
That's so good. I love that.
And the movie ends. How does the movie end? The movie ends with Peter standing in front of the cult inside the treehouse. But the way it's centered and pictured in frame is like you're panned out again and you're looking inside the dollhouse again.
Right. Exactly. Dude.
Insane.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
But of course it's not really Peter at that moment.
Right. It's Payman.
Well, it's kind of Payman. It's Charlie.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because after Peter falls out of the window, you see Charlie's spirit or whatever go into Peter, and then he gets up and it's Charlie at that moment.
Right. It's so good, dude.
Which I can't remember if I understand that or not.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Because Peter's supposed to be the vessel. Yeah.
Well, I know that the grandma really had that connection with Charlie.
Charlie, yeah.
Which makes sense, but they wanted it. I mean, but Payman needed the male body or whatever.
Right.
So, like, maybe, I don't know. I mean, because the grandma loved Charlie, Payman and Charlie morphed together and then eventually went into
something
Peter's
like that.
body. So
it's something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. God,
okay,
so
let's talk about real quick your little tiny thing.
No, it's so stupid. No, it's not a thing.
I want to hear it.
I really said it just because it's funny.
You better tell me.
The only thing I noticed was the dad, Steve, gets an email about the grave, and he has one email in his computer.
Oh.
And I was like, no one I've ever met has just one email in their computer. Do you have just one?
I have at times because I like to delete my emails and move them into other folders.
Well, then shame on me. But again, it's not a complaint. It just made me laugh. I was like, one email? Whoa, lucky.
One email, 4 stars.
4 stars. Yeah, get rid of that 5th star. No, this movie's perfect. It was just something silly. That was it. Not a complaint. Not a complaint, people.
Did you realize that you mentioned that the grandmother loved Charlie?
Right.
Didn't really care about Peter.
Right.
Did you realize that the grandmother breastfed Charlie or helped?
I did.
Helped Annie breastfeed Charlie?
Yes, because of the miniatures. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, yikes.
Ew.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Grandma. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, no. But I liked why she didn't like Peter was because Annie had such a strained relationship that she kept Peter from her. So like
Yeah.
the grandma didn't have any opportunity to get Peter, as Annie says, put her nails in him.
Do you think that's because Annie had some kind of subliminal idea of what the cult was trying to do with Peter?
Ooh, I like that theory. Because she knew about stuff a little bit. Because she had those books. So yeah, I like that theory. Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah, I like that.
Did you by any chance look up the words that were on Charlie's wall, her bedroom wall?
I didn't. Help me out.
I looked them up, my friend.
Yeah, buddy.
There was basically 3 things. One was Satoni.
Mhm.
That is a word that is used in necromancy.
Oh, okay.
I believe, yeah. Zasas is a
Mhm.
word that Aleister Crowley used in summoning rituals.
Okay.
And then the final one is Liftoch Pandemonium. And what that basically translates to is Liftoch means open up. And Pandemonium is one of the circles of hell where Lucifer and the fallen angels exist.
Ah, okay.
Open up that circle of hell to bring up it's
Payman.
It's scary.
Dude. Wow. Dude, the detail in this movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
hard to even know where to begin talking about it.
For real. I know.
So we just gotta talk about things.
I know. I'm like, where do we start?
Now, this is a little tiny thing. This is tiny, but
okay.
And of course she's there. It's not like she's hidden, but it's really cool when you watch the movie a second time.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Ann Dowd plays Joan, the family friend, and
she's fantastic.
She's so good. She was in The Leftovers, and she was just
Handmaid's Tale.
I haven't seen that one. You haven't seen Leftovers?
I have seen Leftovers. I've seen the first season of Leftovers a long time ago when it came out. It was great.
One of the best shows on TV. So great that you never watched seasons 2 and 3.
No, it's on our list. I want Cindy to watch. I'm like, we got to watch this because season 1, I remember just being like, this is phenomenal. So
she is in the first meeting that Annie goes to where she's just talking about her mom.
Oh, I didn't see her there.
I didn't until I just happened to glance up at a moment when it shows the people in front of Annie listening to her, and Joan is like to the left.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, that's cool. But of course, she goes to the meetings.
Right.
But of course, she's been there as long as Annie has. So,
right.
Because it's all predetermined.
Right, dude.
Yeah. Did you know that entire house was a set on a stage?
I didn't. But
the interior, obviously.
Right. That's kind of brilliant for this movie, though, as miniatures being... I don't know. I just feel like that makes sense.
Yeah,
awesome.
Right. That's very cool. I don't think that's that's not why. It's because they realized they were looking for a house in Utah, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that any house that they would film in, it was going to cost less to build a set on a stage than it would to rent a house.
Holy moly. That's crazy.
But that house is beautiful and perfect.
It's yes, exactly. It's like a dollhouse. Like, it's perfect. It's so cool.
Yeah, I really loved, because one thing I caught the second time, the first time you watch the movie, you're just like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there going, what the hell is going on? This is crazy.
Yes.
So the second time, you give yourself room to sit back and kind of observe and knowing what's coming up, looking at everything as it happens.
Right.
And it is very true that this movie is an exercise and a study in family trauma and grief.
Oh, man, very much so. Holy moly.
It uses horror to explore those themes, which is brilliant.
Yes.
Because you're already feeling the sadness and the trauma that's going on, and that's kind of tearing this family apart. Because without the supernatural stuff, without the witchcraft,
Right.
first of all, you've got a mom dealing with the grief of her mother dying.
Right.
The children not really knowing how to process it.
Right.
And the dad trying to be the strong person.
Right.
Which he kind of seems like he's a little bit checked out, but you realize later that he's just internalizing everything to try and hold his family together.
Yeah. Sheesh.
And then you have the death of Charlie, and the way that that happens and the way Peter reacts to it,
Mm-hmm.
you never really see too much until this one dinner. You don't see a lot of
Yeah.
anger from Annie towards Peter,
Right.
but you're just imagining how much she must hate him
Right. Exactly.
and blame him for what happened.
Yep.
And then you find out she does.
Yeah. Oh man, that dinner.
That
Oof.
dinner. She talks to him about that, and he says, "What about you, Mom? You made her go. She didn't want to go."
Yeah.
And it's just the acting, man.
So this is a note I have, and why one of the reasons why I've stopped watching the Oscars for a few years, which if people watch it, great, that's fine, I don't care. But I haven't watched it because I think it's ridiculous that so many movies that deserve to be there have almost like a, I don't know if stigma is the right word, but
Yeah, it's stigma.
stigma of like, oh, a horror movie, that shouldn't be here. Oh, a comic book movie, that shouldn't be here. Oh, you know what I mean? There's kind of that stigma. And I'm like, man, this movie deserved everything. Toni Collette in this movie is phenomenal. There is not a moment where you look away from her on the screen because she is so captivating. And that scene in particular is brilliant. It's scary, not scary like horrifying monsters, but scary just because of the intense raw emotion happening and the anger that you can feel, but the love you can feel. I mean, it is so human in that scene. It's brilliant. And the fact that she wasn't even nominated is so ridiculous. And so again, one of the reasons I don't watch, because she deserved everything.
What if I told you that Hereditary won Best Picture at the Oscars?
It did not. I looked it up.
Okay. I would be lying if I told you that.
Knock it off. I looked it up because I was like, did this get anything? And when I saw it, I got mad. I was like, oh.
But then as well, Peter Wolff
Yes,
as Peter, because the way he responds to her, you know he doesn't want to blame her back.
Right.
And you can see it. You can see that moment where he feels bad for blaming her, but he can't help himself from having that rebuttal against her.
Exactly. And the fact that he holds it, because you see, I mean, I think he even cries, but he holds it together with anger. And it's just, I mean, honestly, that's one of the most powerful scenes I've seen in a movie. It is brilliant. And even Steve, the dad who's sitting there going, hey, come on, knock it off. I mean, he has like maybe a couple moments or a couple lines, I should say. But even he is sitting there and you can tell exactly what he's feeling at that time too. I mean, it's seriously, if you didn't watch this movie, please at least watch that scene. It is perfect. It's
By the way,
good.
Gabriel Byrne as Steve, and
thank you. Sorry.
He's an amazing actor. No, you said it earlier. I'm just repeating it.
Thank you.
Another scene that really blew me away when it comes to the acting is the quote unquote seance scene where
dude.
Annie wakes up Peter and Steve. She brings them downstairs and they make contact with Charlie.
Yes. Awesome scene.
That whole scene blew me away.
Yeah. Yes.
Especially,
and then,
yeah.
No, go ahead. No. You.
Oh, I was just going to say Toni Collette was amazing. But then when she starts really freaking out and she starts acting possessed and then Peter freaks out.
Yes, dude.
The way Peter freaks out. Speaking of Peter, what'd you think about that scene in the school when he puts his hand up and
Oh
his
my
arm is stuck up.
gosh. And his mouth or his face like mangles up. Dude, actually, you know what scene I loved in the school? Like, we'll come back to that, but one I don't want to miss. I thought it was a brilliant shot where he's sitting in class and he just looks up and you see the rearview mirror in class and then it cuts back down. I thought that was such a great shot. I was like, oof. I mean, that shows he's clearly it's as it should be, but I mean, it's sticking with him everywhere he goes. It's always haunting him, always there. And so I just thought, oh, that was so good. But the arm up and the mouth or in his face, that was so crazy. You just sit there and go, what is happening?
And then when he slams his nose into the desk and then it wakes him up out of the possession or whatever it was, and then he freaks out in class. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, seriously, they could not have picked anyone better for any of these roles. I mean, they were made for this cast.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Evidently, Peter Wolff is a method actor, so he was Peter the entire shoot.
Interesting.
And then he did the method thing of at the very end of the shoot, after he was finished, he introduced himself to everybody as Alex. He said, "Hey, everybody, I'm Alex." And
all right.
yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
I see your face. You and I both feel the same way about method acting.
You're absolutely right. We do.
Hey, good for him for doing such an amazing job in the movie.
Right.
Bad for everybody else that has to speak to Peter the entire shoot and not Alex.
Exactly.
Because then in the behind the scenes, after Ari Aster says that and he mentions that, then later Toni Collette is talking about how the movie is so heavy that they had to joke around in between takes and everything. They had to have some levity and stuff. And I'm like, well, I guess Alex Wolff wasn't part of the levity because he was Peter the entire time.
Went to the trailer. He just left. Well, I wonder what he did for the Nickelodeon show he was on when he was a kid. So was he a Naked Brothers band the whole time? I don't know.
Was he in that?
He was one of the two brothers.
Oh, wow.
I know. Random.
He was also in M. Night Shyamalan's Old.
I watched it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I forgot to tell you. We just watched it.
Man, now I just want to go off on the podcast about that. Because that was one you were maybe going to pick for the podcast someday. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. And then we didn't.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the theater with our good buddy JD and my girlfriend Mary. And I remember during that entire chaotic end sequence.
Oh my gosh.
Especially the moment when Peter goes up into the attic. I just remember you hear the banging on the door and you kind of don't really think anything of it except that the mom is trying to bang on the door to get him to open up. And then it cuts to her slamming her head over and over again on the cellar door, stuck to the roof, the ceiling.
Yes, dude.
And I just remember gripping the arms of my theater seat and going, oh my God. And
right.
That was such an intense moment.
It was scary. And it's done really well because it's like, I mean, it's like a possessed person. It's really scary to watch. It's just not natural, I should say. Like, it's not someone banging their head. It's so quick and janky and scary. Oh, it's freaky, man.
And if you watch it, I believe the sound effect of her head, the boom, 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 I believe is even faster than her head is actually hitting the ceiling.
Yeah.
Did you, by any chance, catch the moment when Steven, the dad, comes in and he mentions the smell in the house?
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember that part.
He comes home from work at one point, and I think it's when I don't know, maybe it's when she's torn up her room or something, but she's not doing well. But he says, what's that smell? And he mentions it a couple times, and I was just wondering if you heard him say that and if you guessed what the smell was.
Oh, up in the attic?
Well, we didn't know it was in the attic at the time.
Oh, right. No, I did not. No, I did not.
And how did you feel when we found out what was in the attic?
I was like, oh my Lord, this is gonna get nuts. Like, things are about to get crazy. That was my initial thought, was like, here we go. Here we go.
Was that before or after you took your break? Do you remember?
After.
Okay.
No, it was after.
And what about when Peter is in the attic and he looks up and Annie's floating in the air with a string cutting her own head off?
Dude, that was horrifying. It took me a second to realize what she was doing, and then when they close up on it and you realize it's like like piano wire or whatever, you're just like,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she is chopping her head off. Oh, but I have to say, one thing we didn't talk about that I want to throw in because I thought it was brilliant was when Peter wakes up right before all this happens and his mom is in the corner, up in the bedroom corner right behind him.
Yes.
Oh, Lord. When I saw that, it takes you, maybe not you, but for some, I feel like it might take just a second for you to realize what's going on. Because you're focused on him. He wakes up. But in the shadows, in the corner of that room, she's standing there up on the corner of the roof. It's so scary.
Well, how long did it take you to realize she was there?
Not long, because you see him wake up, and then I kind of looked up, and I was like, oh my
because you see something there.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And, this time around, I was trying to remember if I noticed that right away in the movie theater. I couldn't remember. So, also, this is going to go back to the beginning of the movie real quick.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Did you notice on your second watch at the funeral when Charlie goes up to Grandma's body and that crazy dude looks at her?
Yes, I did.
Smiles.
Yep. I got that the first time, and I was like, well, that's weird.
But usually you might forget. Like by the end of the movie, you've kind of forgotten. And then the second time you watch it, you're like, oh, yeah, that guy. That's creepy.
True. Yes, that's true. That's true. That did happen.
So obviously that whole funeral was made up of the Payman cult members.
Right. Oh, my gosh. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
I love it.
Part of me is like, I know it wouldn't make sense, but I'm like, it would be cool if Joan was there just kind of hiding.
Oh, we should watch the funeral scene later and see if Joan is in the funeral.
I'm curious. That'd be
she
cool.
Wouldn't have to hide. She's just unnoticed.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, I bet you she's there somewhere.
Ooh, that'd be good. I hope she is.
Oh, man. What other notes do you have?
Well, we'd kind of talked just about it for real quick, but the cinematography in this, I think, is something special.
Yes.
Every shot is it flows beautifully. Every shot. And again, this is one of those movies. Not every movie can do this, but this is one where I think if you took a shot of any scene, you could make a movie poster. I just think it's beautiful. It's beautiful cinematography.
So the cinematographer's name is Pawel Pogorzelski.
Right on, man.
I know it's Pawel.
Well, Pawel did an
Pogorzelski.
Pogorzelski. That's tough to say, but she is fantastic.
And also, my friend, we have another amazing score by Colin Stetson.
Yes, that was my other note, was the score, dude.
Yeah. Now, this might many times fall into the category of kind of like the droning atmospheric score that we've discussed. But
right.
Just like, and you haven't seen it yet, but just like Midsummer, there's one piece of music in this movie that stands out from everything else, and that's pretty much all the music at the end of the movie.
Nice.
When Peter goes up into the treehouse and everything.
Yep, exactly.
So,
and I actually, I listened to it afterward too, like just on my phone listening to it because I wanted to know the song. I think it's called Payman's Theme. I think I might be wrong. I'm not sure, but it's kind of, it does that like, sound, and it's so
copyright.
Yeah, shoot. But the sound. I mean, it's like it's like this infamous piece of music. I feel like, because I had heard it. What's funny is I'd heard it on videos or silly videos and stuff, and I was like, that's kind of a cool song, whatever that is. And then when I watched this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's from Hereditary. Holy
Oh my
crap.
God. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I'd
wow.
seen it on like videos on, I don't know, Instagram or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that
That's
sound. I like
crazy.
that music. And then when I saw this, I was like, that's what it's from.
Now, do you know that we have done 2 other movies that Colin Stetson scored?
No. What else?
The newest Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Really? Oh, cool. Okay.
and even what I consider his best score yet, The Menu.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Menu is a fantastic score. But
yes. Yes.
Now-
oh.
now let me ask you something else.
Yeah.
And this is actually has to do with the future, not necessarily us in the podcast, but just you watching movies. I know back in the day when we first started and we talked about movies and I asked you if you'd seen this and you said you wanted to see this someday.
Right.
And you also wanted to see Midsummer.
Mm-hmm.
More recently, okay, do you still feel like watching Midsummer at some point?
I am more excited to see Midsommar than I have been ever before after watching this.
Listen to you schooling me and saying it correctly. Midsummer.
Well, I think it's
No, you did it right.
Maybe
You did it right.
okay.
You just upstaged me.
Sorry.
Good job. You're better than me, okay?
No, stop it. No, stop it.
But more importantly, my friend,
Yeah.
let me ask you this one. Recently, Beau is Afraid came out, and I asked you about it, and you said, that looks a little too weird for me, I think.
Right.
And I said, okay. But now knowing that Ari Aster directed Midsommar, Hereditary, and Beau is Afraid, are you a little more curious about Beau is Afraid now?
I'm super excited now. Yeah, I will absolutely go see it. Like this, honestly, this movie skyrocketed. I mean, if we redid our top 10, I believe it would be in my top 10 list. Like this movie
that's
is
great. Give it some time
fantastic.
though. You gotta let movies sit. This would very much be near the top of movies that I think are the best horror movies ever made.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Not necessarily my favorite top 10 like we did. When we did our top 10, it was our top 10 favorite horror movies.
That's true. You're right.
We haven't
It's
really
just-
done a list of what we think are the best horror movies ever made, but that's because
That's
those
fair.
lists would be like most everybody else's lists.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Totally true.
Alien, Jaws, The Exorcist, The Shining,
Yeah.
The Thing,
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Speaking of, are you ready for 3 questions?
What? Yes. Oh my gosh.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
Question number 1, my friend.
Yeah.
Now, this I can't ask you what your favorite was because there's no real favorites in this movie.
Right.
In your
Jesus.
opinion, what was the best death or kill in Hereditary?
So even and again, like it's so bad to say like, oh, it's the best, but it's, you know what we mean. But I mean, honestly, Charlie's death sets off this chain of events, and it's such a horrifying death. And even though I knew it, finally watching the story unfold with it, it is a haunting, horrifying, brilliant death. Like you said, I mean, that whole scene it's a masterclass. So I would have to go with Charlie's death, man.
I agree. I mean,
Nice,
that
yeah.
whole entire sequence, I started the podcast off talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to go into it again, but it's just, yeah, it's,
So
to me,
good.
it's in a perfect movie. It's a perfectly filmed sequence.
Yes, I agree.
Here's a good one. Do you think this movie is scary?
Yeah, I do. So I think it's scary for a number of reasons. I think it's scary because we have the family trauma. I think that's scary just because it's horrifying to watch this family go through something like that and
Yeah.
watch these characters evolve in this terrible way. But it's also horrifying when you jump to that second half and you see some crazy stuff happen as well. There's a lot of creepy, scary elements in this. I definitely didn't lose sleep, except because I wanted to finish the movie. That was the reason I lost sleep. So to me, it wasn't something I'm going to stay up at night, but there are horror elements in this movie, absolutely, that are frightening.
Yeah, you know what? You took all the words out of my mouth. I have nothing more to add. I agree with you 100%. Right
on. Hey, thanks, man.
Finally, number 3, Andrew, did you have fun with horror?
I think we know the answer, man. This is a perfect movie. I mean, I had fun with horror, man. This movie is perfect.
Yeah, this movie is dark. It's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the movie, I have to say that there was fun to be had. Like, it's not
right.
It's weird calling this movie fun to watch, but there are some moments that are so exhilarating and so tension filled that by the end of the movie, you're like, wow, that was a ride.
Yes.
And yeah, I agree with you. I had fun with horror. This is probably maybe one of the best movies we've talked about and discussed on this podcast.
I agree.
Hereditary.
Charlie, if you're in this room with us, I'm going to have us all touch the glass. Don't add pressure. Now, if you're in here, Charlie, I want you to move the glass for us. Even if it's just a tiny bit, even if it's just the tiniest little movement, okay, Charlie? Okay.
Shh. What the hell? What? You don't feel that? What? Feel what? Like, you don't feel the air flexing?
Andrew.
Scotty.
Next week, my friend.
What's happening?
We're not releasing our next episode in 2 weeks like we have been.
Right.
We've got 2 episodes next week.
What? We do?
2. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Therefore, at this moment, I am not going to pick our next movie because next Tuesday, we have a very special episode in which we had the distinct honor of doing an interview with the composer of the score of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome.
Andrew Scott Bell.
Andrew Scott Bell was kind enough to sit with us, man, and talk and have a fun, amazing interview.
That's right. And that will be next Tuesday. And then next Thursday is our 2-year anniversary. And we have a very special movie planned for that, but we're not going to let you know what it is just yet.
Right. Dude, almost 2 years. Oh.
And we're finally doing a Serbian film.
Finally.
No, we're not. We're not. No. But we've got some stuff. We got some stuff planned, just a little bit. It's nothing huge, but some fun stuff. It's going to be a fun episode.
Yeah. I think people will enjoy it.
I think so too. Both episodes.
Yes, both episodes.
Everybody, thank you, as always, for listening to our little podcast.
Thank you.
Fun with horror.
Fun with horror.
Find us on social media. We've heard people say that they didn't even know we were on Instagram, but hey, we're on Instagram.
Yeah.
We've heard people say that we didn't even know you were on Twitter. We're on Twitter.
We're there.
At Fun W Horror.
It's true.
We're on Threads. We're on Threads, so now you have no excuse. We have a Facebook group. Join our Facebook group.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's small. We don't post a hell of a lot, but when we do post, it's fun.
Yes.
It's the Fun with Horror podcast Facebook group.
Yeah. You'll know us by the same picture used on your listening devices when you listen to the podcast.
Yes, unless... Well, I'm not going to get into it. They're supposed to see something different each episode, but I don't know if it always works.
Whatever.
Also, if you'd be so kind, we haven't had a good review on Apple Podcasts in a long time.
Yeah.
It would be oh so nice if somebody out there, anybody, would just go on Apple Podcasts and leave us a little rating and review. It would just be nice.
Yeah. We'd really like that. That means a lot.
We would. But now, as always, we come to the end of the episode when you and I have such a hard time figuring out how to end the show.
What? Yeah. Can you do your Hereditary impression? Good job, buddy.